Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our JustNoMil. In today's episode, we've been scrubbed from the walls. Interracial marriage with suffocating MIL. JustNoMil ignores texts when people ask her pointed questions or call her out, says she never received them. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. We've been scrubbed from the walls. When I met DH, there was a family portrait hanging in a main room, no other pictures of SIL, and 26 other pictures of DH, special focus on the one of the two of them from mom prom she had blown up. There were pictures of the other boys, but only if DH was in them. There was also a place with DH's maternal grandparents, and Mary. That was every photo in the house. I know it's odd that I know that, but all of the pictures of DH threw me, and I lived there for 4 months. I actually learned about NPD because I googled the phrase golden child because of their relationship. The last time I was there I didn't count, but there was the new family portrait that included me, DH all over the friggin' place, including mom prom front and center, and the 3 golden grandchildren, our oldest boy, BIL1's oldest boy, and BIL3's oldest boy. BIL2 does not give pictures, and she has never met his kids. BIL shared a video tour of the house, and we are gone. The main portrait was replaced with the old one that I'm not in, and that's the only picture of DH. There are pictures of BIL1, BIL3, and for the first time in history, SIL. We were blown away. We are gone. We are dead. This is so lovely. And not mental at all. I find it very odd though that in all of the pictures everyone is less than maybe 8 years old. We are all in our 30s, married with kids, but all of the pictures are of them as little kids. I think all of the grandkids are gone, but she hasn't seen any of them in years, so I understand that. Interracial marriage with suffocating MIL. So as the title explains, I'm in an interracial marriage. I'm from the West, and my husband is from SE Asia. We met in college, and had a bit of work initial to get his family on board, but it managed to happen. His dad was more supportive than mom, but unfortunately he passed away before the wedding. This struck MIL into full, suffocating gear. Bear with me as I go through my experience. This is going to be a cathartic ride. 1. I agreed to incorporate aspects of their culture into the wedding, and genuinely was interested in learning more. This involved the groom's side buying me a new wardrobe. My fiancé gave me some catalogs to look through to pick out outfits, and with his help I picked out 5 to 6. These needed to be stitched to my measurements, so he told his mom what I wanted, gave her the money to buy everything, and gave her my measurements. He emphasized to her that my measurements were correct despite what any tailor there, he was getting them all for back home, would say, as I was taller than the average girl in his country. Not only did his mother not follow my measurements, she also didn't buy any of the outfits I chose. I was meant to wear these outfits on particular days and had nothing. They basically fit one of my preteen cousins who was very slight in frame and also a foot shorter. When asked by my husband as to what happened and why she didn't listen, she just shrugged. 2. I agreed to wear a sari for the formal day event. My husband, thankfully, had bought the sari himself, but the blouse to be worn under had to be stitched. It was an extremely intricate and fancy blouse, and I had emphasized the need for it to cover my midriff and have sleeves. I'm not comfortable showing my body. Not only were the measurements completely off, but it was only long enough to cover my breasts and had super short sleeves. I had to wear my pajama shirt underneath as it was the only thing closest in color. Also, I had wanted it fixed like the catalog photo, but instead she tied it in this really frumpy manner, and since none of us knew how to fix it, I looked like a slob. 3. Day of ceremony, she felt she wasn't getting enough attention, so she decided to make a scene and walk out of the wedding hall to her hotel, about a mile away. It involved walking along a major road and she spoke no English. My husband was still getting ready at the hotel, so she went to him and complained how my family was disrespecting her and the rest of his family and ignoring them. Note: rest of family still at venue, enjoying themselves. My father found out, went to her, and basically was like, "Look lady, if you don't want this wedding to happen, say it now. My daughter is getting ready, and I don't want to waste anyone's time." She shut up and came back to the venue. 4. She insisted on coming to visit in the middle of the COVID wave. We are both healthcare workers and she has significant comorbidities. I suggested to husband maybe she wait, and he agreed. She threw a fit, saying his dead father should be alive to see how he was treating her. So she came, with a significant amount of financial cost and stress. He had to buy insurance, get her meds, and swabbed before she could fly. She insisted on staying 6 months. 5. When she arrived, I was recovering from fairly significant surgery, and was on bed rest for 2 weeks. I tried with was little language I had learned to try and converse with her, but it was limited. She insisted to do all the cooking, but I soon realized her food did not sit well with me. It gave me excruciating diarrhea. She would use too much oil and excessive spices, and she also would cross-contaminate meat surfaces. I was under significant abdominal duress while trying to recover from surgery, and I told my husband that I couldn't eat it anymore. He told her to lighten the spice load, but she became miffed. So my husband would cook me things until I got better. 6. When I could return to work, she became unhappy, saying she was alone at home all day. We had gotten her favorite channels to watch, but she still wasn't happy. She wanted us to take her places to visit, but there was a lockdown. She kept insisting I stay at home with her to keep her company. Note that back home she lived alone. Also note we had gotten her a smartphone and set it up so she could call friends and family as she wanted. 7. She didn't trust the washing machine or the dishwasher. Said they were useless and a waste of electricity and water. Except she never washed the dishes properly, and they were always put away crusted with food and gunk. Also she insisted on washing all of her clothes in the tub of her bathroom. She would never let us in that bathroom, not even to clean it, but we needed the tub one day, and learned the hardest that she hadn't been clearing the drain. My husband retched snaking it, said it brought up unspeakable filth. The rest of the bathroom was equally disgusting and smelled like wet dog. She was not fazed. The water company called, thinking we may have a leak since our water consumption went up threefold. 8. Speaking of kitchen, she rearranged everything. Tang. Any attempt on my part to put things back, and she'd do it all over again. 9. Husband started doing the cooking because even he started suffering from gastric distress. This angered her greatly. She refused to eat anything we made and insisted on making her own food. Our grocery cost went through the roof. 10. I was on a set of on-call shifts and husband was home with her. She filled his head with all this nonsense, said I was emasculating him, and that he should divorce me. We had this huge fight, and she just ripped into, calling me disrespectful, ungrateful, that I would ignore her or not talk to her. Not true. I'd try my best, but there was obviously a language barrier. She had previously made me feel extremely awkward, something I mentioned to the husband, like she'd just be sitting there and start wailing about something and talking about death, and I would just be mortified and unsure how to respond. The fight also centered on how she was unhappy that I would leave from work without asking for her permission, and how when I came from work I wouldn't check in on her or offer her food or tea. You know. When I'd come back after a 13-hour COVID shift. How she was unhappy I didn't spend more time with her or eat her food or socialize with her. Husband was completely in her throes, wouldn't listen to a word I said. Said he'd called a lawyer in the morning. I was absolutely devastated. I called home, told my parents. Dad was level-headed. He called husband, said fine, do as you wish, but make sure this is what you want. Are you making this decision, or is someone making you think this is the decision to make? How often have you guys fought before this? Have you ever fought like this before? 11. TBH, we'd been having almost daily fights since MIL came to stay. She'd start stuff, say things, put things a certain way to cause strife. Once we understood this, we'd ignore her temper tantrums, and she would just act more and more childish. She faked chest pain and had us call an ambulance. Even the paramedics could tell she was faking it, but we took her to the hospital anyway. Everything came back fine. 12. Nothing satisfied her. We bought a house, but we didn't have a car. We had a TV, but it wasn't big enough or sleek enough. So and so had this and that, why didn't we? She demanded new clothes, new shoes, an expensive jacket. Our costs were stacking up, so we started taking extra shifts to make ends meet. This made her angry, said we were doing it to avoid her. 13. One day she threw a massive tantrum, said she wanted to go back home since we didn't want her there anyway. Husband shrugged, said okay, let me move your ticket forward. She thought he was joking, then got pissed when he moved the date up. We helped her pack, found out all the snacks he'd been buying for her when she'd asked for them had been hoarded by her. We also unearthed empty bottles and jars from jams, etc., that we had thrown away. She wanted them all packed. So I dutifully packed and sealed all her things within the weight limit and put the bags aside. The next morning, I noticed that they looked bulkier than before. I expressed my misgivings, and husband confronted her. There were other things she'd kept hidden that she packed but refused to let us unpack. Bags were now overweight. Instead of taking out the useless jars, she insisted we take out the gifts husband had bought for niece, but keep the ones for nephew, because girls don't have interests. All we'd gotten her were 2 reading books and a DIY kit. 14. Day she had to leave, she was pissed I wasn't coming with and would not stop complaining. I was on call, and had she left when she was supposed to, I could have taken off. They get to the airport, husband tells me bags are way overweight, she stuffed them with something else now but refused to say what. She wants him to pay the overweight charge, but he refuses, instead saying he will take the bottles etc. out. She didn't let him. She just unpacked all her clothes and said to keep it in our house, because she would be coming back and visiting regularly anyway. When I came home from work, it soon became evident what her bags were full of. I keep a shelf of extra shampoos, washes, etc. I like when they go on sale I stock up. She'd taken them all, even though we had bought some for her anyway. Guys, this isn't even everything. I've just realized how much I rambled. I don't know how I'm supposed to live with a person like this in my life. Edit to add. This has been very helpful, so I'm going to talk about more things that were done. She hated the slow cooker. Apparently it was not really cooking food because if you're not constantly slaving over a hot stove, how can food be cooked? She had no issue with the rice cooker though. Baked foods are also supposedly undercooked. Everything must be deep fried. Thanksgiving Day we made it very clear that the kitchen was mine, but she kept trying to butt in and wash dishes even when I told her that was not necessary. Guys, she threw out the fat for my gravy. I lost it that day. She told my husband in front of me at breakfast one day, I didn't understand as she speaks no English and my comprehension is limited of their language, that you know so-and-so cousin also made a mistake in his marriage and he divorced that girl, but he found someone better later. Husband's face darkened, which is when I knew something was up, and he told her off. She ignored me post big fight, holing up in her bedroom, refusing to eat, and then calling husband and complaining about being hungry. One day I heard crying and screaming coming from her room. I panicked and called husband. She was just throwing a tantrum. She called my sister via Facebook, crying and saying her son doesn't love her, in broken English. My sister was understandably freaked out, and my mom was pissed she brought a child into this. She was here for his birthday. She said nothing, made him nothing, bought him nothing. She has no income of her own, just her husband's pension, and my husband sends her money every month. He recently found out she's been investing in a scam, and never even told him about it. About a 100,000 of their local currency was lost. When he confronted her about it, she became moody and hung up on him. Despite the fact that he sacrificed a good portion of his starting salary towards finishing the house his father started, and added amenities, and put in fancy equipment and a generator, she still complains about how she has a rickety old table or doesn't have a nice sink. Oh, all the expensive shoes, coats, etc. she insisted we buy her? Left them here. Said they weren't good enough. She had a layover in her rush flight back home. We arranged an escort, but she shook them off. She was to stay in the airport hotel, but couldn't find it. She kept calling husband at our midnight complaining how he got her a bad ticket etc., and how she couldn't find the hotel. He told her to just find someone and ask for help with the note cards he made. They said stuff like my name is. I am traveling too. I need to find. Instead, she just stood wherever she was at and started shouting help 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 at the top of her lungs until security came, and she gave them the phone. JustNoMil ignores texts when people ask her pointed questions or call her out, says she never received them. Anyone else deal with JN's not receiving a text, but only when it involves texts that would make them uncomfortable. JustNoMil has done this twice in the past week. Once with my Giselle, who asked her about why she disclosed some very personal info to people she works with at a gathering a few months ago. And again with DH, who asked if she had been vaccinated yet. She likely hasn't, when she invited herself over for this coming weekend. This is because she is not willing to wear a mask anymore and is going into large crowded events. In the case of Giselle called her phone a couple days later. And the conversation ended with Giselle deciding VVVLC was necessary. With DH, we're still waiting on a response, and she's either 1, going to ghost us for a week or so thinking that's punishment, or 2, she will mention the visit coming up and have to have the conversation then. If she does plan to visit, DH suggested for me to take LO out for the morning without mentioning that to JNMIL before she comes over. That way we eliminate any situation that would expose LO, and he can tell her that because she's anti-mask and anti-vax she's not safe to be around our child. I find DH's suggestion incredibly bold. He basically wants to do a bait and switch on her. If she comes over instead of seeing our child, she's going to have a sit-down conversation about how her inability to care for our baby's health has made her unfit to have contact with LO. Kinda looking forward for the weekend, LOL. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.